Independent living, Roy. We made this series of films to explore what independent living means to our members.
It's about being able to do what you want, when you want, and to a certain extent where you want. It's looking at equality of outcomes as opposed to looking at equality of inputs. Disabled people are experts, if you like, in their own condition and their own needs, and need to be given the power and control that anyone else has about how they spend their resources. I feel in a particularly privileged position in that I can make decisions about what sort of care I want, when I want it, that I'm in control. I can only imagine that if you don't have that sort of control, and that you're dependent on other people making decisions that actually have an impact on how you live, must be really quite disempowering. For example, I think most people's understanding of independence is allowing people to live in their own homes. And many people, are living in their own homes, but are prisoners in their own homes because there aren't the sorts of support services that allow people to get out of their homes when they want to see friends, to see relatives. If you want to get out and about and use something like Dial a Ride, you have to make your booking 2 days in advance. Why should disabled people have to plan their lives? Why can't they be spontaneous? Why aren't the services there to allow people to behave in a spontaneous manner? Unless there's a more level playing field, then disabled people are going to continue to be at a disadvantage. So it's about educating disabled people and saying, look, you do have rights that you need to fight for. It isn't just about keeping you out of hospitals or keeping you out of institutions, although that's important, but it's also about ensuring that the support services are there to prevent isolation or loneliness, depression, etc. My journey has been one of gradual awakening. I got into race equality and gender equality. Those, I suppose, were the big issues in the 70s. And it was a gradual progression then, looking at disabled people are facing the same, and I'm facing the same situations. So I suppose me and one or two others founded Disability Rights Group in Birmingham, and that's how my interest started. And I actually was a city councillor in Birmingham for about 15 years. And clearly, getting elected as a local councillor gave me a platform. And I suppose, my own disability, highlighted the disability areas for other members. Disability has to become a corporate issue, not just for one or two departments of the council. A corporate issue is about every department of the council looking at, how it is or isn't meeting the needs of its disabled residents. So, for example, a lot of the street works that are taking place now, people are expected to make eye contact with drivers, which is a bit ridiculous for visually impaired people. Although some of these schemes are aesthetically pleasing, they don't take into account the needs of certainly of visually impaired people, where it's difficult to discern what is a pavement area, a traffic-free area, and where you're expected to negotiate. I've certainly heard anecdotal evidence that people are perhaps afraid to travel in a city, in a town areas where there are these shared surface schemes. So again, it's about disabled people having a voice, being consulted. Because a lot of these things, if you have to retrofix, cost a lot of money, whereas if they're included in the initial design, you get a better outcome. It is about attitude, it's about knowledge, it's about being sensitive, and it's about consulting with people rather than, there being a sort of professional cadre that thinks it knows best. It's about organisations like Merton Sill developing the voice of disabled people. Decisions, whatever they're about, they'll all have implications for disabled people. And it's about getting organisations, authorities to recognise that. It isn't just about, social care and dressing and undressing and getting people, meals. It's about a whole range of issues that, the planning committee could take on, that the library service could take on, that, the refuse collection service can take on. And I think, like individuals, individuals don't want to rock the boat because they might think they're going to lose services if they're pinpointed as a troublemaker. Equally, I think some organisations have been very cautious in terms of challenging councils because they're dependent on funding. And I come back to that. Independent living is about equality of access, and that can only happen if there's meaningful dialogue with disabled people.